Hi everybody, my name's Andrew and today I'm driving a 2020 Toyota CHR Limited. Right in. Some of you that have been following the channel for a while might actually recognize this car because it has now been in the family for almost 5 years. Obviously I haven't been doing videos for 5 years, but I have made, I think, 3 videos on this car in the past, one of which is currently, still to this day, the most viewed video on my channel ever, which is kind of wild to me because it's frankly not that interesting of a car. But for those that don't know, this is my mom's car. It's a 2020 CHR Limited. She bought it brand new in September of 2020. And as I said, has had it almost 5 years now. And it's coming up on 60,000 miles. So I figured I'd do sort of a 4.5 to 5 year ownership update video, as it's been a couple years since I've done an ownership update video. For the unfamiliar, the CHR was originally designed to be a Scion product. However, from 2018 until 2022 or 23, was sold in the US with a Toyota badge after Scion was killed off by Toyota. Which is why knowing that information helps you understand the design language of this vehicle, with the largest front turn signals I've ever seen, the weird slopey roof line with the door handles up at the top, and just overall the kind of quirky, fun design of the car. There's a lot going on here, but it's not an ugly car. Some people don't like these, I know, but I think the quirkiness is kind of fun, personally. And I do particularly like this color scheme on it as well. The interior is honestly largely similar to other Toyota products from this era. As you can see, it's got the same basic seat design and screen and gauge cluster and whatnot as the Corolla of this generation, because underneath this is basically a lifted Corolla. But there are a few fun touches. For one thing, lots of diamond pattern surfaces everywhere. And I do mean everywhere. Where else are you gonna get a car with a diamond pattern headliner for 25 grand? Obviously. And overall, it's fairly basic in here, but it's still a nice interior. The seats are comfy. This one is manually adjustable as a passenger seat, but they are both heated. It's got Apple CarPlay. It's got all the safety features you want. It's still a nice car, and, you know, especially for a sub $30,000 crossover, which is getting harder to find these days. I don't know why Toyota chose diamonds for the theme of the interior of this car, but as you can see, there's a diamond pattern on the seat as well. The air vents are loosely diamond shaped, as are some of the steering wheel controls. But I mean, you know, it's just a fun little design choice. That's not unlocked. Rookie move. It's not a massive car either, but it does have a reasonably adequate amount of space. I mean, this driver's seat is in my position. My knees are just barely touching the back of it, but I've got plenty of room for my feet, you know, plenty of headroom despite the slopey roof line. The back seat is far enough forward that it doesn't really impact it that much. It does impact cargo practicality somewhat, to be fair, but unfortunately no power liftgate either. But it is still a pretty good size cargo area for what this vehicle is and the class that it competes in. Speaking of the class of this thing, like I said before, it is technically a Corolla underneath. It shares the same drivetrain as a Corolla and a lot of the interior components and a lot of the components underneath. But what does this technically compete with? Well, technically the Honda HR-V, although that's quite a bit bigger than this, the Nissan Kicks, the Hyundai Kona, sort of subcompact or borderline compact crossovers. And this will certainly be a more reliable choice than something like the Kicks The Kona also kind of has a funky design like this, but I think this looks better personally. And overall, while it's frankly not that interesting of a car, you know, design choices aside, it has been a really good one so far. So if you don't believe me about this being a Corolla, take a look under here. This apron, I'd be willing to bet, is the same as the Corolla because the fender is like 4 to 6 inches further out, which is kind of funny. So this is definitely a Corolla underneath, but that's not a bad thing. The Corolla is a great car too. And what's interesting too is with the discontinuation of this, Toyota in the last couple of years has brought out the Corolla Cross, which is essentially the same formula, but with a more normal looking body on the top of it. Which personally I think is a mistake because this is a lot more funky looking and a lot more fun than the Corolla Cross. The Corolla Cross is definitely a boring car through and through. Not a bad one, like I said, but just a boring one. Although, to be fair, the Corolla Cross is available as a hybrid, which this was not, which was also a mistake on Toyota's part because it was available as a hybrid in Europe, but not in the US for whatever reason. And that actually may be one of the main reasons that this car may be leaving soon, but we'll get to that in a minute. And overall, it's holding up excellently, as you'd expect. I mean, the general wear items are here, like, if you'd be able to see, there's a few bug guts baked into the clear coat, which I'll have to try to fix. But, you know, aside from that, the wheels are largely free of curb rash, except for this one. This trim piece was scraped on something, but I think I covered that already in a previous video. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but there's a few scratches here as well. I mean, it's got some scratches, but that's to be expected. There's really no door dings, actually, which I'm impressed by. And you can tell it's been taken care of as a, you know, 5-year-old, 60,000 mile used car goes. But outside of that, it hasn't had anything go wrong really either. Even the power folding mirrors, which briefly stopped working, have magically decided to start working again. So I don't know what that's about, but it's good. And it's the same story on the inside. I mean, this scuffed up section of the dash is kind of bad, but that's not the car's fault. The piano black trim, I literally just wiped it down maybe half an hour ago and it's already dusty again. It's gotten scratched up a little bit, but that's kind of to be expected with this awful gloss black plastic that's everywhere these days. But nothing's falling apart, nothing's gone wrong in here. I mean, granted, you wouldn't expect it to, because it's a Toyota, but nonetheless, it's still good that it hasn't. As for cosmetic changes or sort of upgrades since the last time you saw this car, it got a fun new license plate. At some point in the last few years, I installed the VIOFO, or VOFO, however you say it, front and rear dash cam in here for her. But, you know, my mom's not going to be modifying this car, so that's about it. And as for maintenance items, there actually hasn't been a whole lot yet. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary except for the oil pan being replaced, but that was not the car's fault. Wherever she's been taking it for oil changes, I'm not sure if it was this shop or not that's on the window sticker. I'm not going to name them anyway because they took care of it and it's fine. But wherever she was taking it for oil changes, stripped the drain plug out of it, and then at her next oil change was like, oh, you've got a massive oil leak. Did you know about that? Coincidentally, she had known about it because it had just started leaking on her garage floor. But after some back and forth over about a day or so, they agreed to take care of it because obviously they were the last person to do the oil change on it. It had only been a few thousand miles since then, and it's not likely that she would have taken it anywhere else between then and now. So they took care of it, replaced the oil pan for her, since it was their fault. I believe they initially quoted her about $500 to do that, which seems like a lot, personally. Maybe it's not. I don't know how much an oil pan for this car is versus the labor, but either way, they took care of it, so that's fine. It got a new set of 4 tires. I believe they are Cooper tires. in late 2023. I don't remember exactly how much they cost, but I'll throw it up on the screen here. They were slightly discounted because she did get it done at a dealership that I worked at, so I was able to, you know, get the cost down a little bit there for the tires and the alignment. I don't believe it's had brakes replaced yet, although they probably will need to be soon. I think I noticed it squeaking a little bit today. So those, you know, it's about 60,000 miles. That's about time anyway. So it will need brakes soon, more than likely. But outside of that, that's been it. Oil changes, tire rotations, wipers. I've changed the wipers on it a couple times. But nothing crazy to report other than that. It's also worth mentioning that since we're at 60,000 miles, we're coming up on what could be an interval for changing the CVT fluid in this car. Now, there's a lot of debate online and a lot of conflicting information about, you know, how good these CVTs are, how reliable they are, and whether you should be changing the fluid in them. This one is not showing any signs of issues. That's as much as I can tell you, really. I mean, frankly, it shouldn't be. But generally what we've seen is that other manufacturers, particularly Nissan, do have some pretty garbage CVTs. But generally these Toyota ones thus far seem to be okay for the most part. For what it's worth, Toyota's official stance, from what I can find, is that this is lifetime fluid on these newer cars. This being a 2020, I'm assuming this would be covered in that description. And that you shouldn't have to change it unless the car is getting consistent hard use, like towing or something like that, which obviously this one is not, or at the first sign of any transmission-related issue, slipping, abnormal noises, that sort of thing. And like I said, this one is perfectly fine. Hopefully it still will be. Is it possibly a good idea to do it just as a preventative thing? Probably. But do you need to? Maybe not. So I guess we'll see whether we end up doing that or not. But for the moment, it's not anything to worry about. As I hinted at earlier, now that this car has been around for a few years and is almost paid off, there has been some talk of potentially trading it in. A big reason behind that is that just prior to Thanksgiving last year, my mom closed on the house that she'd been building. And so as a result of that, her commute is triple what it was, give or take. She lived about 10 minutes on a bad day from where she worked previously, and now lives about 30 to 35 minutes. Obviously, the major upside is that she now owns a house instead of renting one, and a good chunk of property with it, which I think you've seen in other videos on this channel before, but her commute is now basically tripled, like I said. This car does get decent fuel economy for what it is, like 30 to 32 on average in mixed driving, is what the car's telling me, which isn't bad. I mean, it's an NA, it's a non-turbocharged, non-hybrid gas four-cylinder in a, you know, decent-sized little crossover. Like, that's not bad. Don't get me wrong, and it runs on 87 octane. It runs on regular gas, so no premium or any of that crap. But there are other options that could be a tempting upgrade in that department of fuel economy. Things like the new Honda Civic hatchback hybrid, which will do almost 50 miles to the gallon. Yes, it's not a crossover, it's a hatchback, but it's actually a bigger car than this, believe it or not, in terms of length. And reasonably affordable as well. Or, you know, potentially something plug-in hybrid, or even maybe something full electric, depending on what kind of deals are out there. Obviously, used EVs are tanking in price right now. She's not a fan of Teslas for obvious reasons. Don't blame her there. And so definitely won't be a Tesla, despite them being incredibly cheap. But there's other good lease deals and deals on lightly used EVs to be had. That is, of course, if she wants to go full electric. I think she would still prefer a hybrid or plug-in hybrid. So I think a new Kia Niro would probably be on the table, plug-in version of that. A used RAV4 Prime would be ideal, or Prime, if you could say that, but it'd be a prime candidate. Sorry, I'll stop now. But they are still actually quite expensive and not really worth it. For the savings that you'd be getting in gas, you'd be paying more than that in the increase in monthly payment. So at that point, doesn't make a difference. But either way, this being a Toyota, it has held its value incredibly well. I think the original purchase price of this car was around $27,000 in 2020, which it also got, I think, not 0% APR back then, but like 0.9 or something stupid low like that, one of those promotional rates. But either way, last time I checked, within the last couple of months, it was still worth like 16 to 18 grand after, again, 5 years and 60,000 miles. And like I said, it's almost paid off now, so, you know, you can do the math on that equity. Which is another, you know, potentially appealing reason to upgrade. Maybe get a even nicer car for the same payment or even less, depending on what you got. But like I said, it's just something that's been talked about the last 6 months or so. For the moment, the CHR is still being a great car and will still continue to be, I'm sure, and is not going anywhere right this second. Anyway, with that said, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe we can get this video up near the record-breaking levels of the other CHR videos on this channel. Who knew that would be my most viewed vehicle 2 or 3 times over? Not me, that's for sure, but I sure do appreciate it. So consider subscribing for more videos like this to come, maybe with this car, but definitely with others. Thanks for watching.